that once my marriage felt in jeopardy to me, I could care less about the businesses, the money. It hit a chord for me that became real. And my priorities got into line very quick. And I personally think, when you're in a marriage, you've got two mirrors reflecting back to each other. And it is about growing together. And it is not going to be perfect because I was driven by enormous fear. I mean, that's what had me getting up at the crack of dawn. And oftentimes I would wake up with a panic attack. So one of the things that came to me as you were talking about that is that a dear friend and mentor of mine many, many years ago kind of commented that, life will tap you on the shoulder a few times and give you a couple, warning shots. And if you don't listen, you get the knockout punch.
Hey guys, welcome back to the TPM Show. We are joined with a very special guest. I have Matt Euler here. Matt has not only been through the program, but he is a family man, a businessman. He is the owner of multiple companies, and this is going to be a really exciting conversation, so stick around. Matt, thanks for being here, buddy.
Thanks, Doug. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch your journey. And I was thinking about this, I think last night. It was almost a year ago. You were here at the TPM Ranch for your Alpha Reset, the very first one we had.
That's right.
Yeah, such an exciting time. Well, let's catch people up that don't know you as well. And let's talk about your journey, where you are today, where you've come from, and let the guys get to know you a little bit better.
Sounds great. Yeah, so my journey, it honestly started long time ago, and it started with me trying to find personal development. Like so many people, I had a rough childhood with all kinds of trauma and drama. Mm-hmm. And so I turned my focus to personal development. And I searched and I took action. I mean, I chased and I attended all kinds of programs and things to try to find the peace and the harmony in my life that I was looking for, and had been on that search for a long time. And so I guess, fast forward to what brought me to TPM, there was a season of my marriage where in my family, our kids were getting older and it started to disrupt my wife's harmony with, some empty nest stuff and purpose and trying to find her way. And man, it rocked my world.
Yeah.
Totally rocked my world.
Yeah. Such a common thread, right? Is as men, we think, and I went through this, I had this illusion that as soon as I said I do, then I put my head down and get to work. Right. And that's exactly what I did. So, and I think a lot of guys do this. We go, okay, cool. Check that box. I'm committed to this. And now let's go conquer the world, and I'll go out there and provide for my family.
Absolutely. And that was me to a T. And I have a tendency to take life and my commitments real serious. And so that's exactly what I did. I mean, we were a blended family. So when we all came together, my obligations, multiplied and compounded. It was very significant. And man, I put my head down and I started charging. And what I was charging towards was this vision of, okay, once our kids are grown and out of the house, then my wife and I get to play.
Yeah.
And, through that process I missed some things because, the image of my head down is probably a good image, and maybe an image that a lot of guys can relate to, because I wasn't watching what was going on around me.
Yeah. I think why do you think men are they just don't catch the signs? Why do you think men are oblivious to what is going around?
For me, I think I can get so focused that, it's kind of like if you're watching one thing so intently that everything else is kind of in the peripheral or not even in the peripheral. And that's what was happening to me. So I was so focused on this outcome that I thought my wife and I were both wanted, that I wasn't seeing what was happening on the sidelines.
Yeah. That's a common thing that guys talk about. And then conversely, women will say, when I talk to them of, hey, I've been telling my husband this for years and he's just not getting it. He's not seeing the signs. And then, men join the program and all of a sudden they start making those changes. And she's like, hey, I've been telling you this for years. Why are you doing it now?
Yeah. And for me, it wasn't, what was on the sidelines for my wife was that she was struggling.
Yeah.
And she was becoming unhappy, just trying to find her purpose. And again, I was doing everything I thought I needed to do and was supposed to do. I mean, I was working hard. I was providing well. I was carving out time for the kids, but I was compromising myself in the process and the time and attention that she really deserved and wanted.
So, okay. And so this is all going down, and you discovered TPM, and you went through the activation method for relationships, which is our flagship program. Talk to me about that journey. What was occurring for you and in your world during that time?
Yeah, well, I had started to wake up to what was going on around me before the activation method. So fortunately, I had some consciousness around what was happening, and my wife Audrey was starting to feel more grounded as well. So it was honestly a perfect transition. But if I had to pick one thing that the activation helped me with, it was how to fill my cup again and how to find my rhythm and balance. You know, I use the term balance, but honestly, I think rhythm is more accurate, so that I had something to give outwardly, because, and I'm happy to talk about this if you'd like, but I had become a machine. I mean, I literally was so focused on tasks at hand, I wasn't living anymore.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us do that, right? And I know for me, and let me know if this is for you, is at some point I didn't know what else to do. So I just doubled down on what seemed to be working, right? It was like, okay, well, what do I do for fun? Well, it's business. I'm good at it, and people seem to like it when I do it. So I'll just double down on the businesses that I own and work in, and then everything will be good, and I'll figure out the rest later.
That's absolutely right. And same for me. And so I went to what I knew, which is I have a lot of horsepower. So I dug even deeper into work. And during that period of time, I had a good friend of mine pass away, and my father passed away. So I became trustees of their estate, which became a whole nother full-time job. I get that done. And I just became a machine and doubled down. And to transition to what I realized was that once my marriage felt in jeopardy to me, I could care less about the businesses, the money. It hit a chord for me.
Yeah.
It became real.
Yeah.
And my priorities got into line very quick.
As they should. And it's unfortunate that a lot of men don't, right? And you know this. You've seen guys go through this whole situation. So have I. And unfortunately, I get on the phone with some of these guys, and our team does. And for some reason, you know, guys start thinking, well, I've worked so hard for this business, therefore I can't lay off of it, right? They don't feel like they can budge. And for me, one of the things I always talk about, Matt, is imagine yourself when you're 70, 80, whatever age you want to do. You're sitting on your porch, rocking chair, drinking some lemonade or whatever, and you're looking back at your life. What are you most proud of? Where did you want your former self to spend your time? And we look back at our 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, whatever that age is, almost all the guys, and I had the exception of one guy, has always told me my family, right? Yet the priority that we focus on as men, is in the business.
Yeah. And that rocking chair test is actually what I was working for.
Yep.
Was time with family.
Yeah.
But yet I was missing that on the path to a large extent. Yeah. And again, I want to clarify. I mean, I carved out time for my kids and for events, but I was so occupied in my head with the tasks at hand with business that I wasn't 100% present. And I was also compromising my health. I mean, the way that I was able to show up at these events was by waking up at the crack of dawn.
Yeah.
And working, 3, 4, 5 hours before anybody else even woke up.
Yeah.
And that, I realized later, was extremely unhealthy and also prevented me from being present.
Yeah. I'm guilty as charged as well. Right. And I go through my seasons of still doing that, right? Depending on what I'm working on, what I'm doing. And it's always good to have that calibration to get you back. And it's a difference for me if you do it for a season that hey, this is coming to an end. But a lot of us get caught up in that season's a decade, right? 10 years later, 20 years later, whatever it may be. So you're going through the program. Things with Audrey are starting to get better. It sounded like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then so you eventually jumped forward and went into the Brotherhood, which is our 1 year more advanced program for men that includes the Alpha Reset, which that's where you and I got a chance to meet here right at the TPM Ranch.
Yes.
Tell me about that experience in the Brotherhood and what you went through in the Alpha Reset.
Yeah, and if I can jump back to the activation method
Absolutely.
for 1 second. So the activation method really helped me to develop my consciousness back to the seasons.
Yep.
Because again, I now look at some of the work projects that I get into, I focus on them as sprints, as opposed to this, 20-year marathon that I'm in, and the activation method really helped me to ground with, okay, in order for me to give something to others, I need to be able to give to myself and also pace myself and find that balance and be conscious of it.
Yep.
And so a lot of things, and I think you refer to them here, the ARS and the decompression at the end of the day, a lot of those tools that I learned in the activation method have been crucial to me. And I still practice them every day to make sure that I'm conscious of where is my energy and how am I showing up for the people that I love and care about.
Yeah. And so I'm going to assume, since things are going better on the family front, you gave up all your business activities, right?
Good question. No, I did not. And I was very fortunate and blessed, although honestly, I could have cared less, but I was very fortunate and blessed that as I pulled way away from a lot of my business activity, that they continued. And I was able to do what I needed to do, but I wasn't just overdoing it.
Yeah.
So from a business perspective, everything managed just fine, but yet I was able to gain this relationship with myself that I had not had before, and certainly a much deeper connection and clarity with my family, and my priority being my family.
I love it. So many of the men that go through the program fear pulling back on their business. They fear all of a sudden, well, if I don't wake up at 4 a.m. and get right to email or working with somebody overseas or whatever it is, then everything's going to fall apart. Or if I actually take time away from work, everything's going to fall apart. Only to find that when they actually fill their own cup or take care of themselves, they don't have to work as much. It's much more efficient. Businesses actually grow.
Absolutely. And I'm still remind myself of that every day when I'm taking time to fill my cup as opposed to produce something in business. But I honestly feel like there are times in life, and whether it's a health crisis or a family crisis or whatever it may be, where honestly nothing else matters.
Yep.
Even though I wasn't looking forward to that moment, the reality is from that comes a whole lot of peace, because I was driven by enormous fear. I mean, that's what had me getting up at the crack of dawn.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I would wake up with a panic attack. That's how I got up. And the way I dealt with the uncomfortableness that I was feeling inside and the fear was to do something.
Yeah.
And that was an effective crutch for a period of time, but then it became a Band-Aid that needed to get ripped off, probably.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think that's what it is, right? For a lot of guys, they're scared to rip the Band-Aid off, right? It's kind of like my kids. I put a Band-Aid on them and they don't want it ripped off because it's going to hurt. But the reality is if you rip it off quickly, that pain goes away fast. And that's what you need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about your journey. So you're going through that. You decide to continue on after the activation method, continue your growth. What's the next season for you?
Yeah. So the next season for me with the brotherhood was really the relationships that I had developed in the activation method were relationships that I firmly believe I'll have for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And my pack, which is what we call our group, my pack is people that know me and care about me in a way that honestly, like some I've never met. So let's just say that. I mean, I've got some amazing people in my life.
Yeah.
And now I have more because of the activation method. So when it came time for the activation method season to end, the brotherhood was an obvious step for me. And interestingly enough, I don't remember the number, but the vast majority of my pack all joined the brotherhood as well. So it was like our time together got to continue, and our growth together got to continue at a new level, which is what I saw the brotherhood as, is kind of the next step up in the process of, connecting with me and showing up better for my family and the people in my world.
I love it. And we fast forward to today. Where's Matt at?
Yeah. So where's Matt at? Well, I'm about, the brotherhood for me was just completed not too long ago. So I'm looking at what's next.
Yep.
Because I want to continue that continuity and those relationships. And I also, one of the things I love so much about the Powerful Man as a movement is that I'm plugged into people who care, who are conscious. Some of the things that the guys in TPM and my pack and have the way they care for me and communicate with me is different than most. I'm a firm believer that as men, we are all warriors in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's huge power in being able to communicate with other men in a way that shares your heart and your feelings and your wins and your sadness. And that's what I have found in this community that's just invaluable to me.
Yeah, I mean, iron sharpens iron. It's like a cliche that everybody hears time and time again. But I think for businessmen like yourself, you're at the top of the tree, you know, where you are as somebody, you know, if I can share, you own many businesses.
Yes.
Not just, so you own a lot of businesses, which hopefully we can talk about at some point of how you were able to do that. But also, so you can't just go talk to your staff or your employees about personal issues, your fears, your doubts, the fact that maybe marriage isn't playing out the way you thought it was going to. And so that's where I think the TPM community really comes in, is you have all of these men that are at the top of their tree in their area, whether it be their industry or their location that they're in, now can come together and very succinctly and privately share those things. And guys that don't have any skin in the game, so to speak, right? So they're not going to make a financial advantage off the advice they give you. They're going to give you honest, real advice. And sometimes, in my experience, it's not they're straightforward. They're not going to pull any punches. They're going to be honest with you and very truthful.
Absolutely. And I count on that. And I know the guys that I'm communicating with and in the brotherhood, they count on it from me.
Yeah.
And so I see it, the term Mastermind Alliance is a common term, but that's kind of, to a large extent, what I see this community as. Yep. And I know I could pick up the phone as soon as we're finished here and reach out to 5 or 6 or 10 guys, and they would take my call and they would carve out the time necessary to show up for me. And I would absolutely do the same for them. And that's unique.
It is.
And valuable.
I think so too. It was one of the things when we started TPM, it was kind of that idea that originally we were looking for that clubhouse, if you will, and we couldn't find it. So we're like, okay, we got to build it, right? And we got to build this group of men that are business owners, but also like adventure, fun, family values, right? They want to be there for their family as well. And we couldn't find it anywhere else in the world. So we built that and coming. Now we have, I think there's about 1,400 active men within the general community. And to your point, just yesterday, I saw a thread, and a guy who runs a very large company, it's very sales focused. He had a question about artificial intelligence software. And within seconds, that question was answered by somebody in a completely different industry who had the practical knowledge of like, hey, we've implemented this, use this, not that, and it'll save you a ton of money. And so it's not just about saving your marriage or just about saving yourself. We're also all businessmen. And so we'd like to talk about business, and you almost can't stop us, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, which I think makes the community super special.
Absolutely. And, when we started talking today, I said it was an honor to be here.
Yeah.
And that's why it's an honor. I mean, what you and Tim and Arthur have created here is something that I had been searching for since I became old enough to know what I needed to search for and had not found for 30 years or more. And so it truly is an honor to be part of the movement that you all have created and continues to grow. And it's something that I think, honestly, I think most men need and are seeking, would benefit by. And after searching long and hard for so many years, to discover it almost by accident I'm just convinced of that.
Yeah. I think back it's almost about 8 years ago that Tim and I got together. I think we had one other person on the team. And now fast forward to today, I think there's about 36 of us with coaches and staff and support team coming through there. And what makes it special is obviously the men in the program. And I only share this because I think what's really cool, people would be shocked, is we're running it like the movement, like a business. We're all business guys and women, and we use Slack. And the channel that blows up the most in Slack isn't marketing, sales, operations, legal, any of that stuff. We have a client wins channel. And the company culture is such, or the organization's culture is such, that client wins is the foundation of everything. So how do the men win? Is it man reconciling a marriage? Is it a man finding his fitness for the first time? Is it a man, whatever's happening for that guy? When they share it in the community, we all celebrate it as a team. And that also happens inside the community as well, which is this is just special.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think about the, after my reset, which was very powerful for me, the interview that I shared at that point was just that it's life altering. It truly is life altering. So, honestly, I can't say enough. I don't know if this is the direction you intended, but I am a huge fan of what you all are doing, and honored to be a part of it. So,
yeah, I don't have a direction when we do these. Okay. I think most of the guys that watch this show know it's just a conversation. One of the questions I'm imagining the guys were wondering, because we started off with, you and Audrey were not at odds, but you guys were at a crossroads. In your marriage. How are things now?
Yeah, things now are greatly improved. And again, I'm cautious to say they're just perfect, because I don't know if, I think life, I've learned, is kind of like the tides. I mean, they ebb and they flow, and there are seasons. But what I will say is that I'm healthier now than I've ever been.
Yep.
And I think, again, part of what you all teach is the idea of leading as a man. And I don't know that I know I was not doing that well before. I was leading myself well in a lot of ways, as far as getting done what needed to get done. But I was not leading my family in the same way. And so I do feel like that Audrey now appreciates some of the leadership. She also appreciates the stability in my moods and me being healthier. My mood wasn't great on 3.5 or 4 hours of sleep, you know? And I was so task oriented that almost everything else was a distraction. So I think the healthier I am, the happier she is. And we're still human, and we're still working our way through life and trying to find our joys and our passion and our harmony and all of that.
You mean it's not perfect all the time? Come on. No.
I know.
I think that's the realism, right? Like we went out to dinner last night with my family, which was such a blast. At least I had fun. The kids had fun getting a chance to meet you and going through it. And we were talking about life, and you were talking to my wife about the ups and downs. And my wife and I think one of the things that we decided to do a long time ago is just be very open with people about the struggles that we've had. And I have yet to meet a couple, once we talk about our struggles, that don't share theirs, right? That don't admit, like, it looks we're Instagram perfect, right? Or at Facebook perfect online. And then you talk to people about their real struggles. And what's interesting to me, Matt, is women talk about this with each other all the time. My wife will say, "Oh yeah, we get together. It's just we talk about our husbands, all these things, the complaints and what have you." Men don't. I'll go out with the husbands, for a beer, or we'll go out to dinner or whatever it is, and nothing is talked about their marriage. It's just not done. Conversely, my wife will go out with that same group, the partners, and she'll be like, "Oh yeah, they're not doing well. This is happening over here." She has all the dirt, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that we don't have that assembly. Like, people aren't as forthright with, look, we're human. We're not perfect. None of us are. We have our ebbs and flows, but we're doing the best we can.
Yeah. Well, and I totally agree. I mean, and I think it's unfortunate in a lot of ways, because the reality is men are people too. And even though we are warriors at times, the reality is this stuff is real. Yeah. Life is not perfect. And I personally think, when you're in a marriage, you've got two mirrors just reflecting back to each other, and it is about growing together, and it is not going to be perfect. And to me, the juice is in getting to know somebody's heart and what's really going on for them. And even just listening can be a support, but it's freaking life.
Yeah.
It is life.
Yeah. I think a lot of us try to hide the demons we're facing and or what we're working on. And the reality is everybody can see right through it, right? It's just so obvious.
Yeah. And when to me, at least, what I resist persists. And the sooner I'm willing to go in and say, wow, this is real for me, and find somebody that I can trust to share that with.
Yep.
A lot of the energy from it leaves, and all of a sudden life starts to show up better. At least that's been my experience.
Mine as well. And one of the things we were talking about at dinner, I'm going to shift gears here if I can, which is so interesting. I think the guys also want to know is about you as a businessman.
Okay.
And what it is that you do. So obviously you're a business broker. Well, obviously to me, because I know, and you also have equity in a lot of businesses. Let's just say that. And you have a new course coming out on how to teach people on how to buy businesses as part of their portfolio. Would you be willing to stick around and do another episode just on this? Because I think that could be a deep dive it'd be an alternate that we don't normally do here on the show and talk about that business and what it is you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys will find that fascinating. So I'm looking at your journey through like the user journey arc, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're in your early age, your 20s or what have you. You're doing a lot of personal growth and development, searching for that peace and freedom. And you come up into your 40s,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're married, you're busting your butt. Things are going well. At least we all think they're going well.
Uh-huh.
And then you come up and you go against this wall, and then you seek counsel, right? Essentially, you look for someone to give help, which is TPM is the one that comes to your mind. And now you're starting to repair your marriage and really reconcile that part of yourself coming through, and coming out the other side of that. And I want to share that with the guys, is the hope of, hey, things are a lot better than they were, and now I can see a lot clearer. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, Matt, what you'll find is a lot of men who will listen to this are in that hope stage. Like, can I pull this together? What advice would you give to a guy who's listening to this? He's running on the treadmill, or he's driving his car right now, heading to work, and gosh, his wife is his roommate now, and they're not talking. They're disengaged. He's wondering, geez, man, is this even worth it?
Yes, that's a big question.
It is.
Or at least that brings up a lot for me.
Yeah.
So one of the things that came to me as you were talking about that is that a dear friend and mentor of mine many, many years ago kind of commented that, life will tap you on the shoulder a few times and give you a couple, warning shots. And if you don't listen, you get the knockout punch.
Yeah.
And so in my life, I've tried to avoid the knockout punch. I don't want to be knocked out.
Yeah.
And so I tend to keep a very high awareness of like what's going on, and try to be more aware. And so that's one piece of advice, I guess, is to pay attention to those taps on the shoulder and take action. Back to one of the statements you share so well. It's, as men, we have the ability to do that, and directing that in the right place is important.
Mm-hmm.
And now, especially if I start to feel the tap on the shoulder, I try to pay attention and take action.
Yeah.
To correct whatever needs to be corrected.
Which is great advice. Great advice. Well, man, thank you so much for being here. It was an honor for you to come meet my family, be here at the ranch again, and just to see you. And I'm so excited for everything that's going on for you and your family.
Thank you so much, Doug. And it's been an honor for me as well. And I'm so grateful to be part of the program here.
I love it. Gentlemen, as we always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. As Matt's saying, if you feel that tap on your shoulder, whatever it is in your 5 territories, yourself, your health, your wealth, your relationships, or your business, take heed, right? Because the second tap may come, but as Matt was saying, the third tap, that might be the knockout punch, and you don't want to be laid out at doing that. So don't go from podcast to podcast or show to show. Take these insights now. Grab a journal, write down something you got from Matt's journey. To me, Matt is a shining light of hope at the end of the tunnel. He put in the work, and he's getting the results at the end. So guys, do yourself a favor. Take action. We'll see you next time on the TPM Show.